13 News at 5 begins with breaking news tonight.
What you're looking at here is video of an Iranian airstrike targeting a U.S. military base. This is in Qatar. Now, we first learned of the attack a little more than 4 hours ago. It is an act of retaliation following the U.S. attacks over the weekend.
And now we're starting to hear from our local and national leaders. Monica Alba begins our coverage tonight from Washington, D.C.
Iran's retaliation is underway. Iranian armed forces saying it targeted the Al Udeid air base in Qatar after the U.S. bombed 3 nuclear facilities over the weekend. U.S. officials say they had been notified of threats against U.S. forces on bases in Bahrain as well as other countries in the Middle East. President Trump meeting with his national security team in the Situation Room this afternoon. After Saturday's attack, the president had warned Iran about any retaliation.
Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
2 officials telling NBC News that before the weekend attacks, Iran had warned the president if the U.S. conducted airstrikes on Iran, it could potentially activate sleeper cells it claims to have in this country.
There's a lot of bluster coming from Iran, but we do have to take seriously the threat that Iran has placed inside the United States, teams of people who could go after soft targets.
Today, we're getting a look at those targets in Iran. Isfahan Technology Center taking a direct hit. And Natanz, a crater remains where a bomb fell. But it's difficult to determine damage at the Fordo facility, buried deep underground. And it's unclear where Iran stored its enriched uranium and if it was hit, though the administration is confident it was.
We have a high degree of confidence that where those strikes took place is where Iran's enriched uranium was stored. The president wouldn't have launched the strikes if we weren't confident in that.
Iran turning to Russia for aid. The country's foreign minister meeting with Russian President Putin and saying Iran will coordinate its response with Russia. Qatar has condemned today's attack, calling it a violation of its sovereignty, and the president continues to monitor the situation closely. He's scheduled to depart for the NATO summit in the Netherlands tomorrow morning. Monica Alba, NBC News, the White House.
An Indiana lawmaker now reacting to the strikes today on that U.S. military base in Qatar.
Democratic Congressman Andre Carson told 13 News that he was headed into afternoon briefings about today's strikes. Well, Carson sits on the House Intelligence Committee and talked today to our Emily Longnecker.
In the hour right after Iran hit back against U.S. military stationed in Qatar. Indiana Congressman Andre Carson couldn't say if those strikes involved any of the 600 Indiana National Guard members stationed in the Middle East.
I'll know more at the briefing. I'll press to get answers.
The soldiers who deployed last September were set to come home in late summer or early fall. A spokesperson for the Indiana National Guard told 13 News that could now change. Carson, who sits on the House Intelligence Committee, says he was briefed about the U.S. strikes on Iran over the weekend, right before the media announced them.
You know, instead of the U.S. acting as a broker, a neutral broker, President Trump has made a decision that has caused a seismic shift that really undermines U.S. values. It puts our brave troops in the line of fire, and it jeopardizes the well-being and safety of civilians.
In posts over the weekend to True Social, President Trump applauded the U.S. operation to take out Iran's nuclear capabilities. He also talked about regime change in the country.
We are facing increased risks to our national security and a potential nuclear conflict and a destabilized region. As long as the region is destabilized and as long as there's animosity toward the United States, a regime change won't change much because the animosity is so high and the resentment is so great. Now, long term, sure, we know that Iran has been and shown itself to be a certified supporter of state-sponsored terrorism. That does not speak to the Iranian people. It speaks to its leadership.
Carson also says he's been advised by U.S. intelligence agencies that they're closely monitoring for threats here on U.S. soil.
I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned about state operators, sleeper cells, particularly lone wolves who self-radicalize and convince themselves that doing something to U.S. monuments, elected officials, everyday citizens will produce some kind of gain. But I warn them, it will not.
Emily Longnecker, 13 News.
Thank you, Emily. And 13 News also reached out to Republican Congresswoman Victoria Spartz to get her reaction to today's strikes. She was not available for comment. NBC Nightly News with Tom Yamas will continue our coverage of this breaking news. They actually have several teams overseas gathering the latest information on this attack, and you'll hear from them tonight at 6:30 right here on Channel 13.
It's Monday night, and oh, was it a perfect day for the splash pad. We want to make sure you know the impact of the heat that we're now seeing all across central Indiana tonight has caused people to seek some relief any way that they can. If it goes out to the splash pad, if you're trying to get inside for some AC, or at the very least, just find some shade under a tree. We want to know if you're heading out tonight, you want to make sure that you do stay safe. Watch those temperatures. Angela's here with what we can expect tonight on this weather impact alert day.
Weather impact alert day, a weather impact alert week. For the most part, we expect this heat wave to continue. We'll add some storm chances to the mix, but we've got you focused on the heat alerts right now. All of central Indiana under a heat advisory. And then once you move north and east, there are excessive heat warnings in and around the Fort Wayne area. Just know it's hot and it's going to stay hot. Those heat index values or feels like temperatures running anywhere from 95 to almost 105. It is hot out there. If you're going to be out and about this evening, still find the shade. Actual air temperatures are in the low to mid 90s. We will stay there sunny and hot. A 7:05 first pitch at Victory Field. Evening temperatures will stay in the 80s. Tomorrow afternoon, we're back into the 90s for another hot day, and those feels like temperatures will again top 100. So be prepared. Heat stress will be an issue tomorrow.
I'm proud of the team. I'm proud of the city. You know, this is my city.
Pacers fans are still supporting their team after they lost the NBA Finals to the Oklahoma City Thunder.